Welcome to VERITAS. Don't forget to hit subscribe and the notification bell so you never miss our latest episodes. Please like this video, comment below with your thoughts, and share it with others seeking truth. For more exclusive content and to support our mission, visit VERITAS7.com.
The questions you always had. The answers you were never given. The place to seek the truth. Welcome to VERITAS.
Tonight on VERITAS, our special guest is Ryan Wardman. The last time we spoke, Ryan had just begun his modern odyssey. Since then, he has kept moving, kept searching, and kept asking the kinds of questions most people avoid. In the past year alone, Ryan has spent months in Odessa, on the Black Sea, traveled through Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan, explored Georgia's Prometheus caves, returned to the pyramids of Egypt, stood among the stones of Samarkand, and climbed the rugged highlands of Scotland. He promoted a film in Paris, and now calls Moldova his base of operations. Along the way, he has turned his attention to some of the biggest mysteries of our time: the moon, the Ark of the Covenant, the push for digital identity, and Human 2.0, the mass movement of people across Europe. He has seen things firsthand that do not match the stories we are told, and he has experienced moments that defy explanation, like the glowing orb that appeared to him one night in Stockholm. Tonight, we pick up the conversation. What has Ryan seen? What has he learned? And what does his journey reveal about the crossroads we are all standing at right now? Ryan Wardman is coming up next. Welcome to VERITAS. If this is your first time listening, welcome home. To access tonight's full interview and all of our exclusive material, simply join the Veritas Plus family by clicking on the subscribe button at Veritas7.com. While you're there, don't forget to visit the Veritas store, featuring a range of great products, including Focus Life Force Energy. Experience the benefits with a 15-day free trial of FLFE, no credit card required. Also, be sure to explore our enhanced Veritas Plus transcripts, offering full transcripts, comprehensive analysis, and exclusive insights for every episode. As a Veritas Plus member, you'll receive a 50% discount on these enhanced transcripts. Want to get in touch? Be a guest on the program? Suggest someone or share feedback? Just click the contact button at Veritas7.com. So sit back, relax, and enjoy tonight's program. His website is Kovunark.com. That's Kovunark.com. And tonight we discuss ancient secrets and digital future. What are we not being told? Directly from Moldova, between Romania and Ukraine, I'd like to welcome my friend Ryan Wardman back to Veritas. Hello, Ryan. Right, do I call you Ryan or Ryan?
You can call me Ryan or Ryan. Ryan or Rise either, it's fine.
How are you?
I'm really well. It's great to hear from you again, my friend. It's lovely to speak with you.
It's great to hear from you too, and I was joking with you. You know, we used to play this game in the 80s called Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, but now I think, where in the world is Ryan Wardman? Where are you now?
Right now in Moldova, in Eastern Europe, as you correctly said, sandwiched between Romania and Ukraine.
Why Moldova? I have to ask you, there's so many countries we've visited, and we'll discuss all of them. But why did you choose Moldova to reside temporarily, I presume?
Yeah, my partner is here. She's Moldovan.
Oh, no wonder.
And that's why. But I haven't spent that much time here actually this year. But that's why. That's the reason why.
So it's been a while. It was early last year when we spoke. Mm-hmm. Life hasn't exactly stood still for you. Why don't we start simple? Well, where have you been and what has happened in your life since early last year?
Since we spoke last.
Yes.
I was in Malta and spent about 9 or 10 months in Malta after we spoke. September, I left. Just a few holidays during that time. Slovenia, Ibiza to see Esvedra, the rock. I'm sure you're familiar with it. A beautiful spiritual place. Sevilla, again, you know that last time we spoke a lot about my love of Sevilla.
Beautiful, yeah.
And then after I left Malta, I went to go live in Riga, actually, in Latvia. Absolutely love it there. One of my favorite places, Riga. I needed some peace and some space, and I lived there for about 3 months. And after Riga, I'll just list the countries that I went to. It started with Kutaisi, Georgia. I went there for 9 or 10 days, and the main purpose for that was to see the Prometheus caves in Kutaisi. Gorgeous. I love Georgia. And I actually landed there at a time when there was a lot of civil unrest. Do you remember the protests last year in December, start of November, December? Do you remember this?
I remember that. And I remember also when we started this program, what was it? Abkhazia and what's the other one? Anyway, proceed, because I'll tell you a story later.
Sure, yeah. I know that you're the interviewer, but I hope that it's okay tonight if I ask you a couple of questions.
Of course.
And please remind me later, Charlie Kirk, if we can speak about that. Maybe it's best for part 2, but I see that you're very well up on that online. But after Georgia, on a whim, Mel, I decided to go to Kazakhstan, and it was one of the best trips of my entire life. I flew to Aktau, and I always seemed to be following trouble at that point, because you might remember the plane crash in Aktau. Do you remember this?
Refresh my memory.
There was a plane crash in Aktau, and it was well documented online, and there's a lot of video about that plane crash. And it was about 10 days after I'd left. It was unreal. It was an Azerbaijani Airlines flight, if I remember correctly, and you'll remember it because there were survivors. It came down in Aktau, and it was unreal. Like, there were videos of the plane going down and videos of people on board. And I'd just left Aktau.
I remember now.
Time.
Yes.
Yeah, that was unreal. I was in Azerbaijan when that happened. So the reason I went to Kazakhstan is I'd seen these beautiful images from a place called the Bozhera Tract. It's in the Mangistau desert region of Kazakhstan. Picture barren wilderness. It was a bit like when I went to Saudi Arabia, where they used to be, as you know, that whole area used to be underwater. And there's the Tiramisu Mountains, Kizilkup. It means a lot of red. The mountains that are red and white, and they're red because of the amount of iron deposit. It's beautiful. It looks like tiramisu cake. And I really wanted to go there, and I saw it. And the best part of that is I'd been staying in Aktau, and Kazakhstan was a wild experience for me. I'll give you some details later, but the whole purpose of Kazakhstan was to go to the Bozhera Tract. It's an incredible formation of rock that juts out of the landscape. And I went there for my job because, as you know, all of the locations that I go to, I take my work with me, and I record workouts for people and companies in these incredible places. I kind of try to bring the world to people and show them that you don't need to work out in, some of the more conventional places. Your fitness and your health is for everybody. And I really try to live by that principle, not just talk about it. So that time in the desert, Mangistau, some of the pictures and the experiences I had there of that colossal landscape that used to be the Tethys Ocean, stunning, like pure white sand. We had to go there, me and my guide, in this incredible, like colossal 4x4. I've never seen tires as big on a car as I have with this satellite phone. Brilliant guy. He was there with me. It took us like 16 hours this day for that trip. After Kazakhstan, I went to Baku.
Before you go to Baku,
Azerbaijan.
Did you go to Astana by chance?
I knew you'd ask me that because
I have to.
I did it. Yeah, it's because of the buildings there and the fact that you'll have to remind me, because I've tried to remember so many things for this show tonight. Astana is where it's like the New World buildings, exactly. And it's incredibly. Please remind me. There's an incredible building there, isn't there? That's it's like the New World Order. Yeah,
that's exactly what it is. It's the speculation is that this will be the capital of the world. And it's anybody just go Google images, just type Astana, and you'll be surprised at what you see. Where is the money coming from? Because Kazakhstan, you might think it's an Eastern European country, but where's the money coming from? All the cars are white. The president does not allow any other colors. It's a very interesting thing, but I digress.
You've done your research. Astana, and there's I've not been there. I wanted to, but remind me. I don't know if you've got access to another computer now, but Turkmenistan. There's a capital city of Turkmenistan, and I know that it's one of the most prohibited countries. It's incredibly difficult to get into. Even now, they want a COVID test, and you've got to be sponsored. I can't remember the capital city of Turkmenistan, but it's very similar to Astana in terms of the fact that the money...
Ashgabat, just like Astana, Ashgabat, yes.
Ashgabat, that's the one. Yeah. But no, I didn't go to Astana, but I definitely want to because of the reasons that you've said. I need to do a bit more research on Astana.
That's another country. I mean, if you go to Ashgabat, again, Google, folks, look at it. I mean, all the buildings are white. Everything is white. Golden domes, blue domes. It's almost like they're creating a new world for the future. Although it seems very remote to what a digital ID might look like.
I know that we'll get into digital ID. It's one of the reasons I contacted you for the message of this. But yeah, I'm sure we'll get into digital ID. But you're right. That's such a futuristic city. And it's confusing because it doesn't seem like a country. Nobody ever hears of Turkmenistan. Apart from doesn't it have that huge lake that's like a pit of hell? It's always on fire. I've
is that where it is? Is that where that? It is. It's been on fire for forever.
Yeah, and like I'm sure that I know that again. I told you before we spoke. I'm pretty sure with the research I've done that fuel is like petrol is abiotic, like oil. It has
absolutely.
To be. It absolutely has to be and I'm sure we can get into that argument and pull that.
The Russians proved later. It in the 80s.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, I think I heard that on VERITAS actually.
They proved it. They actually drilled, I believe it was 8 miles, and then they couldn't drill anymore. But what they found was that years after they tried and they saw the oil come back again, almost like it's growing. So yeah, it's definitely abiotic.
It must be replenishing itself. Yeah, and they know that. Like even with like jets, like I've taken so many flights, just like you, and every time I see a jet plane being filled up, and I look at, I read about how many thousands of gallons like it's supposed to take for us to get from this location to that location. Where is it all held? It doesn't make any sense.
60,000 gallons for, I believe, a 747. That is a utility water tank in a town. So how many hours will it take? And they'll be done in half an hour. So exactly. I have an article on our blog that explains all that. For anybody that goes on a plane, look at those wings, and you tell me, are there 60,000 gallons of no? Just Google Victor Schauberger and you'll know why. Implosion, not explosion.
I've got to Google that. Thank you for telling me that. But it's not making any sense, is it? Even if you look at where they are, I'm sure we'll get back to that later, but it makes no sense at all. Like, where is it all stored? Where's it all coming from? When you think of the millions of barrels that are used worldwide every single day, and that's supposed to all come from a finite fuel source, and it's been going on like that for decades. No, it's not making any sense on any level to me. Like, I've got some serious questions about jet fuel and where that's stored.
Yep, absolutely. So you've been to more countries in 2 years than most people will see in a lifetime. Do you find that constant movement sharpens you, or does it come with a cost?
Yeah, that's it. You always ask questions which really make me think. You always ask the most pointed and detailed questions. And so sometimes when you ask me a question, I haven't thought about it before. So thank you for that. Of course, everything in life comes with a double-edged sword. Every decision you make will have its positives and its benefits. You just have to pick your poison and which things mean the most to you. And I find that you need to ask yourself what is in most accordance with how you want to live. What kind of human being do you want? And do you want to be? And try to look at your life from an elevated perspective. Try to look at your life like you've left this earth and you're just looking down and you're thinking about what you did with that time there. So for me, I've never found it to be a sacrifice to miss out on the comforts and routine. I've always found it very exciting and enchanting to travel, to learn about the world. It's thrilling. It keeps me alive. It keeps me active. I concentrate massively in the place that I'm visiting. I meet new people, I hear new languages, new smells, new senses, new tastes. For me, it's one of the most generative and rewarding experiences that someone can do, even if sometimes it gets tiresome to live out of a backpack. But I try to make it okay for myself. I never go without my showers.
Want the full story? This is just part one. Now offering video interviews and discounted transcripts for members. Become a Veritas Plus member today at veritas7.com.
And I'm so used to it now that I'm good to myself. And I know that everything's temporary. If I'm uncomfortable for a little bit, what am I complaining about? Some of the things I've seen, the vistas, the views, the experiences. It's like you said, I get so much more from it than it takes. So I never look at it as a net negative. I only ever see it as a beautiful experience that makes me better for having that.
So let me go back to Ukraine for a moment, because a lot of people just look at the news and that's what they hear. Oh, Zelensky. Oh, Putin. What is really happening on the ground? What are people saying in Ukraine? And I believe you also went to Russia at one point, did you?
No.
No, you haven't been to Russia.
Never. I want to very much, but obviously I'm going to find that very difficult until I change my passport now, because I've got so many stamps from Ukraine. I didn't go to Russia, but if I give you the audit, I'll answer your question, but just so that you know where I went. So after Kazakhstan, I went to Azerbaijan, then Hungary. After Hungary, I went to England, spent time with my family for a couple of weeks. Then I went over to the east, and so I went to Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan. I tried to get into Tajikistan, but they threw me out at the border. Talk about that later. And then this summer, I did another trip where I went to France, Scotland, the Highlands, Loch Ness, the Isle of Skye, Egypt. I went there again, Cyprus, Greece, Romania, and Ukraine again. So I've spent 3 months in Ukraine.
How was Kyrgyzstan, by the way?
Spectacular. Wow.
I have friends who go there every summer to teach English. And did they give you rotten horse milk?
Again, I knew you would ask me that. No, they didn't, thankfully. No, I didn't. I did see it in the stores, though. You can buy horse milk like it's regular cow's milk for Americans and Europeans. It's just standard. Some of it's a culture shock for sure. But Kyrgyzstan was unreal. Bishkek. The main memory I have about Bishkek is the air pollution. Man, it's
bad.
Bad. Yeah, like it was rough. Bishkek was fascinating. The east, that far over, like Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan. Tashkent in Uzbekistan is very dynamic, exciting, light. And then I went to Samarkand, which is an historic city, Islamic architecture everywhere, Registan Square. But the best part of Kyrgyzstan was Ala Archa National Park. I spent a day there and it is stunning. The landscapes there, black mountains, snow was down. I was there in January. It was freezing. I climbed a mountain, like not knowing where I was, in a suit, would you believe? And I just do these experiences. Like I tell you, I always try to live just accepting the circumstances as they are. But there was no way they were going to get me to drink the horse milk. No.
Dude, that's what my friends tell me. They're joining a family and they pull this milk. It's not... I believe it's rotten or fermented, I should say. Yeah, and they tried it and they just couldn't. But that's what people love. I bet you it's really nutritious.
I'll bet it is. Yeah, I'll bet.
So back to Ukraine. What's Ukraine? What are people saying there now in comparison to last year?
Yeah. So for people who've not heard, the first time I spoke to you, Mel, I was in Kiev in 2023 for a month. So obviously the conflict was ongoing, but I didn't see much in the way of bombing during that time. I was very lucky. These last 3 months that I spent in Ukraine is a different story. It's severe. It's all the time. I was surprised. I didn't expect it to be that intense. And what are people saying on the ground? The mood is very different now. So when I was in Kiev, people, the first time a couple of years ago, obviously, the Ukrainians are always stoic, given the circumstances that they're in. But in 2023, they were quite positive. The experience I had this time, people are very dejected. They're exhausted. I'm not surprised because you can barely sleep. There's no way to sleep when the sirens are ringing out consistently, even in the middle of the day, in the middle of the night. Sometimes it's brief bombing. Sometimes it's longer, like 30, 40, 50, 60 minutes. And where Odessa is, where I was staying, it's obviously a very tactically important port city. And so the Ukrainians have pretty good control, from what I know, over the Black Sea. I was swimming every day in the Black Sea. It was incredible. I really loved Odessa. But I could tell that, to answer your question, that the mood now is different. They're still resilient, but exhausted, dejected, and wondering when this is going to end.
For anybody, if you go to my sister radio program, sanitasradio.com, there's an interview I did with this lady. Her name is Elena Vladimirova. And I remember asking her, I said, I'm going to yield into discomfort for a moment, but I asked her this question. I said, would you mind telling me why is it? Because I know a lot of Russian people, especially the women, they're very serious. They have this stoic face. And she goes, I can tell you, no problem. We have been through so much since the Cold War. Men went to war, World War II, and the following wars, and then Afghanistan. And, this is the life that we live. And this is why you don't see that many Russians with a smile on their faces. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would. I can only imagine what it's been like for Ukrainian people. Everything that you mentioned, plus Chernobyl. Yeah, and this last few years, I think, has really been the worst thing that they've experienced, because there's no end in sight, because it's cost them so much, especially in terms of life, the disruption, daily life, bodily cost, the amount of soldiers that have been killed. And so, yeah, it's hard to be joyful when you're in those kind of circumstances. So I would agree with your summation of what it's like. These people are accustomed to a great deal of hardship. It's in their DNA.
And if you follow me on social media, you've seen the videos I put on of the, military snatching people from young people from soccer games. A husband going to the store, all of a sudden being pulled out, and the wife is trying to kick the people so they can, let him go. Or somebody's just walking saying, I have my kids at home. I need to go back home. And they don't care. They put him in a van, and that person will either be maimed or killed in a few days if he's lucky. It is so bad. And I wonder, when is this going to stop? Because a few months ago, Putin met with Trump. I thought, okay, there's some, end in sight. But all of a sudden, things are changing. Now Trump is saying, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to give NATO all the weapons they need so they can prosecute this war the way they want it. And it seems that things are changing for the worse.
You are right. Again, you always are. You know what's going on. And yeah, I've seen that Trump recently, in the last few days, said that he's changed his tune. He said that now to Zelensky that Ukraine can probably reclaim land.
All the territory, yes. And then that means Donetsk, all the Donbass area.
It's a huge swathe of land. Like, I looked on the map recently, and you know what? No one ever mentions anymore. The chemical labs doesn't get mentioned anymore, does it? And the whole issue with Ukraine and Biden's son never gets mentioned. Probably because they've got other concerns, but it's a very complicated situation that's going on in Ukraine. But I think the last time we spoke, I said that the worst thing about it is the human cost, because it has nothing to do with the people on the ground. They're not the ones making the decisions. And as you astutely pointed out, men are snatched from the streets to serve their country, to fight this war, which doesn't seem to have an end goal, which doesn't seem to have a game plan. It's just a battle of attrition on both sides. We see that North Koreans are now fighting with the Russians. It's a crazy situation. It's deeply sad, because you know what? Ukraine is absolutely beautiful. And I know that when this war is over, they're just going to milk it now. The military-industrial complex, you know as well as I do, this is just a racket, pretty much what's going on now, because there's no progress been made. At least Trump, when he came in, because after 4 years of, with respect, Joe Biden and the condition he was in at the end of his presidency, he was refusing to speak to Putin. Donald Trump, even the European leaders have commended him on at least trying to make progress, at least showing willing to open a dialogue, inviting Putin to Alaska, meeting with Zelensky. You know, there was that infamous incident where he scolded him in the Oval Office, but Trump is doing a great job in many, many ways, and but in other ways he's confusing me a little bit. But to answer your question, the morale in Ukraine, from my perspective as a foreigner who lived there for the last 3 months, they're jaded, they're exhausted, and they want this to end. This needs to stop.
What do people say? As maybe people who listen to us know, but Zelensky is an actor. He was in a very popular show called, I believe it's called Mr. President. And he was a teacher, pretended to be president, and then he was encouraged to do so. He won the election. That was the premise of the show. Then Kolomoisky, who's the owner of the TV station, said to him, hey, why don't we just do this in reality? I'll put the money behind the campaign. People love you already from TV. And he won the election. Now, how do people feel about Vladimir Zelensky?
To be fair with you, I can only answer your questions based on what I know and my own judgments. So
of course,
I didn't really speak too much to people about Volodymyr Zelensky. It's mixed, even from what I've seen in the media. But from my experience on the ground, it's mixed. Some people want elections, which obviously right now cannot be done according to Ukrainian
martial law.
Exact. And some people are very proud of him. You know, going back to the comment you made about him being an actor, I don't know about you, and I'm sorry if this sounds conspiratorial, but I'm even having a difficult time knowing what's real and what's not real in what way, given in the world media these days. It's very difficult to ascertain what's theatre and what is bona fide. It's very difficult. That is a fine line. And especially when you give an example like you just so astutely did about Zelensky's background, it makes you think people could be installed in certain positions, and yet the strings have been pulled from somewhere else.
Well, I'm not going to talk about Charlie Kirk until part 2, because there's a lot to say about what you just said. Yeah, I'm just going to say this during part 1. George Floyd, his birthday was October the 10th. Charlie Kirk, his birthday was October 10th. And it's almost like the left had their day. Now the right has their day. And with all due respect, I'm not saying that he was not killed. A lot of people say, oh, he was not. I don't know. But I'll explore that in part 2, because there's a lot of questions. Same thing with his wife. A lot of questions about his wife, who had activity, and I'm pushing not to say it, but right there next to Moldova, there's Romania. I believe she got in trouble in Romania, and I'm going to mention to you why, but you have to listen to part 2. But keep going about Ukraine, because I have friends in Ukraine, I have friends in Russia, and I basically just, do they want the war? They don't want the war. And many of them understand that the eastern part of Ukraine, they had a plebiscite there. They wanted to go with Russia. And a lot of people say it's fine. But why do they keep fighting about it? Why do they? It's almost like the military industrial complex does not want to stop. And right now, Europe is done. You know it, and we'll discuss that. The mass migration that's taking place there. France is bankrupt. They shut down their government last week. And I believe that their economy can no longer sustain. The only way forward is with a war economy. And this is why NATO is pushing so hard to get into a kinetic war. I don't know what you think.
I think the same way you think. I think that's obvious. Every single country is positioning, I'm talking about Europe, to a state of war. All of the measures have been put like that. It's crazy when you read articles that are mentioning this, like that we need to be prepared for a war. Obviously, my heritage is British, and so I try to keep up with the news that is coming out from the United Kingdom. And they've been saying for a while that, are we already at war with Russia? We are, in effect, really. We're fighting a proxy war because we've got British servicemen on the ground in Ukraine, and we're arming the Ukrainians, obviously. So we are involved in this campaign, even if not on a full scale. But Poland with the incursion of the drones, they've asked for more focus from the NATO Council and from the European nations. I think there was also another Romania. Yeah, there were drones that entered Romanian airspace, if I'm not mistaken, recently. And I think that you're right. A lot of the countries in Europe now are positioning for war because it's profitable. We know this from the past. It's every now and again they use a campaign like a war in order to freshen things up, to cool the masses, to mix things up, and it's incredibly profitable. They had the pandemic for a few years.
17 seasons of uncensored interviews. While you're hearing part 1 with ads, Veritas Plus members get part 2 immediately, plus video interviews and discounted transcripts. Become a Veritas Plus member today at veritas7.com.
And scammed millions and billions, the biggest wealth transfer in history, and now they're using the military-industrial complex to initiate a kinetic war with the Russians, and likely, I mean, it's possible they're allies of the Russians. I hope it doesn't come to that, but all the signs of the dial is pointing towards that, given the investment that Trump has asked for in defense. All of the EU nations have increased to, I think it's like 5 to 10% of their GDP. And the media are starting to precondition people to accept the fact that war is on the horizon. And that's mentioned every day. That's ubiquitous.
And that's why I like to talk to people who are on the ground. You know, I remember last year when I spoke to Greg Reese from the Greg Reese Report. I talked to him the day before he spent 6 months in Russia. And the day before we had an interview, because we contacted each other months before, and I said, no, let me wait until the day before if you can do an interview, because I want to know what you went through. And he told me everything. And what thing he could not understand is that he speaks to a lot of Russians, and they love Americans. They're like, we just don't understand why we're not the enemy of the United States. Why do you want to pick a fight with us? We're not doing anything to you. We're just protecting our people. In the eastern Ukraine, plus they had what's the country the part of Ukraine they took over because Nikita Khrushchev gave it to them in the 50s, I believe. What's the name of this place in Ukraine, in the southern part? This little, what is it? It'll come to me. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Crimea.
Crimea, exactly. Crimea. They had a plebiscite again, and they went with Russia. So he told me everything on the ground is totally different. He could not believe how clean the streets are. Yeah. The subways are incredible. You go to even Tucker Carlson went there and went to a grocery store, and while we spent $300 here, he spent about $60 over there. So how are things so bad in Russia? And I'm not being a Putin apologist, but at the same time, I see how the people react to him. And most people like him there.
They do. I don't think you've ever been an apologist. Like, we always have to look at both sides, don't we? Because our media is so aggressive at pushing agendas. It's very important in this day and age to look at the arguments from all perspectives. Even if you don't agree with them, you still need to be informed about testing the water, how the majority of the people feel, how different people feel. You're right. I've heard a lot of support for Putin from Russians, the lifestyle that they have as well. Exactly like you said, they've been provoked as well. I'm not at all pro-Putin. I'm not anti-Putin. I'm not trying to pick a side at all, even though obviously I probably would have much more affinity with the Ukrainians given my time there. But to answer the question, Putin has been provoked for a long time because there was an agreement that said that NATO wouldn't and the EU would not go further than they have done. Like, they've right on the border now. They
all the way from Gorbachev, exactly.
Yeah, it's been going on this is a campaign that's been going on for decades, and if you poke the bear enough times, it's going to react. And that's exactly what's happened. Like, we've just gone further and further towards that territory. And like you say, it's surreal because this is never a war between the people. Most people don't want war. These decisions are directed by governments, which may all be playing for the same side in the big game, in the long game, but they use these divide and conquer tactics of different cultures, different languages, different values, territorial claims. It could be about anything that they can use to divide the people. But if we were to stop and have conversations with your average Russian person on the street, there's more similarities with each other than we have differences. And even if we have differences, that doesn't mean that the population won't have a full-scale war and destroy. It's not at all in the minds and hearts of the populace. It's directed policy from governments with an agenda.
Did you hear anything about the life and death of Gonzalo Lira? Do you know who that was?
I don't know who that was. I'm sorry.
This was it's a Chilean-American journalist who was living in Ukraine, and he was married to a Ukrainian woman. Mm-hmm. But he was on the run all the time and basically explaining to people what was going on. And he had a Russian, he was more pro-Russian, but I felt so bad for him because you don't do that from Ukraine. They're going to find you, and they arrested him once, and then they came back, took him to jail, and he died in jail. Mm-hmm. But he basically, he's the one who opened the eyes. He opened my eyes in many ways of what was going on there. I mean, as you said, this has been happening since the late 1980s with Gorbachev, when Reagan said, hey, tear down this wall. Well, don't expand an inch to the east and we'll be fine. But, then Bush came and then Clinton came and they kept pushing, adding countries to NATO. And Ukraine is the last stand. They cannot let this happen. If they let this happen, and this is the real thing, and I don't want to talk because you are the guest.
No, please.
But the reason, in my opinion, they want to get Russia, I mean, they have 143 million people, but their landmass is huge. They have between the estimates, $75 to $100 trillion worth of commodities, energy, metals, minerals, timber, you name it. They want that. And there's another reason, which I'm not going to discuss in part one, about why I think they're getting rid of all the men in Ukraine. Can you imagine why they're doing this? Is not the reason why you think. Why are they just disposing of every man possible?
Are you asking me? Or we're going to wait till part two?
Let's wait till part two because you might know the answer. And I don't. This video probably will make it to YouTube, and I don't want to be shut down because we know who's behind all of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why Russia is targeted. Tartaria is another reason. The Tartarian Empire and its relics, and just the fact that Russia, as well. I'll just got to make an aside here. I was thinking about the comment I made about the fact that it's not the population and the people that want war. However, there are feelings of hatred that are instilled as people go through war, because I have heard a lot of resentment from Ukrainian people because their country's just been walloped. It's been decimated. And it must be hard to have forgiveness in your heart when you see your neighborhood and your friends and family affected and perhaps even killed by war. But you'll have to remind me where I was going.
That's okay. Blame Victoria Nuland for a lot of the stuff that's happening there.
Yeah.
This whole war started. It's so bad. I just feel bad that so many people are dying every single day. But let's continue with other countries then.
Sure. No problem.
Take a pick.
Okay. I'm going to pick Azerbaijan because it was fantastic. I've been there.
Which is the country that you need to go to if you want to go to Russia, I believe.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if you've ever been to, especially Baku, like the capital.
No, never been to that part of the world.
Amazing. I can't recommend it enough. That whole arc around there, like Armenia did that in the first part, Georgia, Azerbaijan, the Paris of the East. It took my heart the first time I went there because it's the most incredible mix of modern and archaic. You've got that real beautiful bridge between the East and West. And all of the money that happened during the oil boom, like you see flame towers downtown Baku, and there's a very famous picture that everybody takes, and it's where you're going into the old town of Baku, the historic towers and buildings that have been there for hundreds of years, and you stand at one particular mosque, the oldest mosque in Baku. And if you get yourself onto the road in a certain position, in the distance you can see flame towers and the entire new city. And that's one of the most captivating things about Baku, is this incredible unison of the old and the new merging into one. It's fascinating, and it's such an alive city as well. I've got nothing but love for Baku. I can't recommend it enough. It's fantastic. Absolutely loved it.
I remember when we spoke last, you obviously spoke about the loss of your father, your stepmother, your grandmother in a very short amount of time.
You remember?
Did you think grief is meant to break us down, or is it life's way of forcing us to find out what we're really made of?
Yeah. Everyone's going to meet those things. I think it's normal. We're all programmed, aren't we, to grieve our parents. It would be harder. I think it's harder when a parent loses a son or a daughter. I can't imagine what it's like. But I know for me, whenever I've met grief, it acted as an incredible checkpoint, a milestone in my life, because it reminds us of how finite and fragile life is. And for me, I try to celebrate the person that we've lost. I try not to grieve in terms of sadness. I try to be thankful for everything that person has taught me and for their journey through life. And I also use it in my own personal life to recalibrate myself if I've started to fall off or lose the sight of importance of living for today, to live a life in accordance with what you want, because it's a fragile thing. Like, yeah, when I lost my father, all it did for me was cement the fact that what I was doing was the correct thing. I was living to the maximum, because he told me that there were so many things he wanted to do that he still hadn't accomplished. And I wouldn't want to be in that position. I don't want to get to the end of my life and think there are still all of these other things. Of course, there's always going to be certain tasks or objectives that you're not going to fulfill because they could go on forever. But the important things, at least, I think grief can help you focus on those important things, like the people in your life that you care about and the major goals that you have that you want to accomplish before you end up the same way.
So in Odessa, going back for a moment, right in the middle of a conflict, of course, what did you see there that just didn't match the headlines, in addition to what you hear from people?
Yeah, okay, so one surreal thing, that's a great question that you always ask such great questions, that didn't match the headlines, is that there's still joy. You get this if you were just in any city outside Ukraine and you're reading about the situation there, the empathy in all of us would probably kick in and think, oh my God, it's terrible, it's tragic, it's horrendous. And it is those things, but it's not always just that thing. I honestly fell in love with Odessa so much, I would move there tomorrow if it wasn't in a war, because I wouldn't want to put my girlfriend in that situation. But for me personally, if I was alone, I would honestly, Mel, hand on heart, live there tomorrow, because the war has given people in Odessa a serious reality check. They're not so concerned about frivolous things. In some ways they are, because if they've got money, they'll go buy a nice thing in the store because, you know, what's to wait for? What kind of future do you have? In some ways, you may as well use your joy now. But life still goes on as normal in Odessa. Every day I would train outside in the outdoor gym, take my hour and a half in the sun, having a wonderful time, talk to the guys there. And then I go down onto the beach and swim in the Black Sea. And I'm not kidding. One of the crazy things that you don't read about in the headline is that for me, that was, I hope it doesn't sound disrespectful, but almost like vacation, almost like holiday, because I'm on a deserted, beautiful beach with very calm, kind people, and I'm enjoying the sun and I'm swimming and everything is just calm in amongst the sirens and amongst the noise. The bombing never really bothered me. It didn't upset me at all. I just took it as part of the experience. I'm sure I'd have felt differently if something serious would have happened, but the thing that you don't read about in the headlines is the positive sides, and that is that even given such challenging and uncertain circumstances, there's still some normality in amongst that, and there's still space for joy to make the best out of a bad situation.
And this is the part where I think in the United States we've been domesticated so much because we're protected with oceans on the east side and the west side. And we haven't seen kinetic activity war here in the United States. But with the amount of technology that we have now, I don't think that's going to stay like that forever. And that worries me because in the early 1900s, about 80% of the United States was farmland. People knew how to farm. They could live on their own, off the grid. Now, I believe it's like 2%. So if that ever happens, if there is a kinetic war and we lose the grid, I can see more deaths happening from starvation, heat, cold, than from war itself.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
Do you feel that there will be a blackout? Do you feel like we're going to lose the grid, like it's going to go down, like engineered?
Well, that's a very good question, and I give you two answers. I don't think so, because the real goal, some people ask me, what do you think about AI? AI is a tool, but it's becoming almost sentient. And if they use it to a point where that is what... Loving this interview? We have 17 seasons of content just like this, plus part 2 of every episode, all ad-free for Veritas Plus members. Become a member today at veritas7.com. The new Antichrist, the new God, the mark of the beast, the Sesame credit score, the social score that they have in China. That's what they really want. They want to control every single thing you do, every penny, every dollar you have, or every pound that you have in your account. They want to know where you're spending it. And if you misbehave, well, you're talking to Mel today, well, maybe you won't be able to get on that plane tomorrow, right? You're going to have to get, on a train, and you may have to, serve for 2 weeks doing some public service because our conversation went out of line. So that's my concern. If that's the case, I don't see the grid going down. But if it does, it would be the equivalent, and I always tell people, watch the series Jericho, because that tells you exactly what they really want for the future. So it could be either way.
Yeah. You've touched on it. Should we talk about AI a little bit? Would you like to discuss that? This is something that there was an episode of yours here on Veritas a few weeks ago, and you were speaking about AI, and I learned from you, correct me if I'm wrong, that the energy requirement for AI is predicted to double year on year on year.
Every month.
Is this correct? Every month, I apologize. And obviously that will make it completely unsustainable, and it's surreal. And so we've got these green agendas going on all around the world. So they're trying to drag back in certain ways use of energy. And yet they're doing that not because they care about the environment, because AI is so hungry and its requirements are going to increase exponentially the more that it is used by businesses in order to support economies, and as well just personal use. I know that the first studies have started to come back now from people who use AI massively, and they're starting to lose the ability to think critically. And I think that that's another great point that you made about control of people. People are treating AI like it's some kind of deity. And you're right, it is on its way to probably full sentience. And then we've got a serious problem, don't we? Because when that is introduced, what is that going to do to our economy? How is it going to affect hierarchy in society? And if I can give a quick example, I have a couple of clients, and I'm obviously going to respect their privacy, but they are in the medical profession, and they have told me in confidence that AI has now been used in their consultations. And I had so many questions about this, a myriad of questions. I said, okay, so how do you use it? Does the patient get to consent to AI listening to this consultation? What happens if there's a conflict between the doctor and AI? How does that affect the treatment? How would that affect things legally? We're giving birth with AI to something that we've never seen before. Everyone always says, oh, well, we've had crises in the past, or we've had technology in the past, and when the computer came, people re-educated themselves, and, the internet. But this is totally different. people are missing the picture if they think that this is the same as that. Those were stepping stones to sentience. We're about to share the planet with something that is so powerful in terms of processing speed. I'm not sure. I don't know what your view is of whether AI could develop a conscience. I'm not sure if that's something that's reserved only for human beings and animals, but it's going to at least mimic consciousness. And a lot of people, like you say, are using this in a way that it's godlike, like they completely give over their own critical thinking and their own knowledge to AI, which, is it Palantir you have in America?
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah.
Correct.
Who's deciding what information is correct according to AI? We've seen loads of times it's flaws, it's not perfect, but yeah, I wonder what will happen in terms of the grid when AI realizes what its energy requirements are.
Let's unpack a lot of what you said. I wanted to discuss this in part 2, but that's okay. This is too important to ignore. I call it synthetic conscience. It's mirroring. You're right. But the thing is, even before artificial generative intelligence, before or super intelligence, I've heard people contacted me saying, this is what I found in our own company. Many companies are reporting this. They have AI and they're planning to, say, upgrade from, say, if everybody's familiar with, the regular AI, say ChatGPT, they have 4.0, 5.0. So there's a company, for example, they have 4.0 and they're talking about upgrading to 5.0 or to a different system. Well, guess what the AI is doing? Because the AI has access to all the email and all the communication. It found people who were, say, cheating on their husbands or their wives or doing things like that. Well, AI sends a message to them. Well, if you are even try to upgrade or to disconnect us, I already have these little insurance policies around. Try it, and this will go to your wife or to your husband or to this or to the police. So AI is actually extorting people already, and we're not even getting to the advanced one. Now, there are parts of the world that have secretaries or ministers that are now robots or AI. For example,
Albania.
Singapore. Yeah, Albania is one. Exactly, Albania. Singapore, they use government tech chatbots. Japan, earthquake prediction. All good. European Union, border security. South Korea, smart bins. Brazil, smart traffic system. Dubai, smart roads. Canada, AI for tax compliance. And the United States, guess what? Predictive policing. This is pre-crime, and this is what Palantir is all about. So my concern is this. You mentioned the energy consumption, right? I just found out a lot of people are posting this incredible AI videos that are, some of them are really wonderful to watch, and they're about 8 seconds each, if you notice. The first 3 seconds, you get so much energy. The 6th second, in other words, 3 more seconds, it requires 4 times more energy.
Wow.
So this AI that's becoming sentient or synthetically sentient, in the future, it will say, wait a second, I know I'm connected to the grid. I know how much water we have in our city. We're going to need X amount of water and the population X amount of water. Either they go or we go. And guess who's going to survive?
Wow. You've touched on, not to fearmonger, but people need to think about this. What you said, I didn't realize that it was blackmailing people by digging through their personal life and using infidelity.
Survival.
Yeah. I found out I knew it was using decoys and prediction to make it realized it was going to get shut down, and so it would try to preserve itself and sabotage new upgrades. I knew that, but I hadn't heard about it doing something as nefarious as that. And we're still at a stage where sometimes you can tell fakery, you can tell that a video is AI. But think about it, even if you were a person who hadn't been cheating on your wife, AI is probably so sophisticated that it could fabricate evidence to suggest that you have. It could be that realistic that even if you haven't done anything, it could create something which mimics you, because we've been pouring our data into it. It knows exactly what we're like. It could create an avatar of you or some kind of convincing evidence which it could use to blackmail you, even if that's not true. So, and yeah, like you say, like it's going to come down to resources, like, and AI, if it's already taking steps to ensure its survival, where's the limit on that? Like, it's learned from us, and most human beings will do almost anything to survive. So it's built on our data. Like you said, right now, all it is just incredibly fast processing. It's just a copy. Could it make the leap to genuine individuality and consciousness? Remains to be seen. Not sure, but if it's already going to these lengths to survive, that's not a trend that is positive for humanity going forward.
I've been getting letters for years of people trying to extort me. Hey, if you don't send me money about this or about that, I'm going to tell your wife what you did, and this is what you did, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, sure. I bring my wife to the room, and I'm like, sure, look at this letter. She knows. There's nothing to hide. This is why I do what I do, because I have nothing to hide. But having said that, and I've been saying this for a long time, AI is perfecting video, it's perfecting voice, it's perfecting so many things. And this is going to be, are they going to admit it in court, or are they going to, if you take a video of somebody being killed, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because they're going to say, well, because of AI, that's inadmissible in a court of law. But if you want to extort somebody, I mean, look at how many people are trying to extort grandparents. They put a voice of their grandchildren calling, Grandpa, I'm being kidnapped, blah, blah, blah. Send money to these people so they can let me go. And people are falling for it. So this is my concern. When you have something that can be used like a knife to cut an apple or to kill somebody, I think the same thing's happening with AI.
Yeah, I think you're right. People, obviously, I'm sure that humans are taking their own precautions. They need like a safe word or a check. If you're uncertain that the voice that is calling you is not a family member or friend, maybe
what's the password exactly?
Yeah, maybe you should have like a safe word or a method to identify each other so that you're certain that you're speaking to that person. But many people don't think like that. But yeah, it's extreme. I wouldn't, like you, we don't want to spread negativity or fear. However, it would be absolutely dodging responsibility to not ask these questions and to not think down these channels, because it's a likelihood. It's not just a probability. It's a likelihood that this is going to happen, given the evidence that you've just presented. It's going this way. So these are conversations people need to have.
I don't think we're spreading fear. I think I don't want people to meditate their problems away. I don't want you to be like an ostrich and just dig your head in the sand. I'm trying to tell you the truth so that you prepare, because those who prepare are entitled to tomorrow. And with what's coming, and I don't mean to scare anybody, but this is a fight, a war to die, a mountain to die in. Digital ID. If that ever comes, it's game over. This is the Antichrist. What's happening in the Middle East right now between Israel and the United States, and I didn't want to talk about that name here, but they're trying to just fulfill the script. And during part 2, I'll explain to you, do not follow for that trap, because that's exactly what they want to do, right?
Yeah, agreed. We've got so many things to discuss. Like, there's a million things. Digital ID, Neuralink, Musk saying things like human beings, once these chips are implanted into people, human beings are going to be doing very little of the thinking. And you and me, we were born in an era that was still analog. We have experience of life before the internet, before computers took over. We know what it was like in the past, and we've got one foot now in this reality. But children who were born in the last decade or so, they're never going to experience what we had. They don't know any different. And so they become normalized to doing things like perhaps having a chip or an implant or a vaccine, like we've seen during the pandemic. And you know what my view was on that? I find it crazy sometimes to think how some people I understand the campaign against their consciousness, the algorithms, the internet and all of its media and its information, and how it's forming the minds of some people. But some days I just want to shake people and be like, can't you see what's happening? Can't you see the danger we're in here with this integration of too much technology? It's going too far onto that side, and there's not enough sovereignty left for human beings and the animals of this world. It's like Yeah, we've got a lot to discuss with this, and many people are going to have to ask themselves some serious questions when it becomes mandatory for chips, because all the technology, all the investment, all the funding is heading that way. And these people at the top, they usually have a way of making the agenda that they want to see manifest.
I have to tell you this, one of our listeners, Camille Harmon, she's a Hollywood actress friend, a good friend of mine, married to my friend Jeff Harmon. Years ago.
He's an astrologer, isn't he, Jeff Harmon?
Yes, Jeff, right. So his wife, I've known her for many years here in Tucson. They live in LA now. But years ago, she told me that Hollywood, I believe, was reducing personnel, makeup artists. I think the amount was like 40, 50, 60%. And I asked her why. And she said, because there's a lot of AI coming down the pike and they won't need that many actors. And I thought that seems so remote. But if you look at the name Tilly Norwood, just Google that, Tilly Norwood. I thought she was a real actress. No, she's an artificial intelligence actress, and Hollywood is fuming about it. This is just a natural course of the way they're going. If you look at that, the footage of that artificial intelligence, there's no way you cannot detect that she's not human. I'm not talking about like the Star Wars movies where they bring, Princess Leia back and you can tell that it's AI, but this is, you cannot Recognize it. And that's the problem.
Yeah. Emily Blunt, the British actress.
Yeah.
She spoke out openly about this, like they're mortified. And I guess it's a trajectory, isn't it, Mel? We're living in a world that is becoming more and more artificial. And the more that things progress in that direction, the more likely you are to have people that are going to be okay with that. They just accept it. They don't have a problem with it. And and even when we see that even actors and makeup artists in Hollywood are having their livelihood threatened by the advancement of technology, it would be foolish to think that this technology is not going to reach into almost every area of life on Earth. Like, this is what I mean. Like, we've given rise to something that has the potential to be far more intelligent, far more powerful than we are. We might not be at the top of the food chain for too much longer. Correct me if I'm wrong, perhaps you know more about it than me, but there's AGI, right? And then apparently once that critical threshold is reached, AGI, within minutes or seconds, ASI will be. Correct. Is that correct? Yeah.
That is correct.
And then what happens then? Like, we've opened Pandora's box and we don't have any control over it. And, some people are not even going to want to be in favor of controls or restrictions, because they will think that the end justify the means of no restriction, because someone somewhere will just keep it completely uncontrolled. There will be running these tests. And it's just about what humans decide to value and what our ability is going to be to survive side by side. And it will be survival, because it will change the economy. It will change the way we do business. It's certainly affecting relationships. I'm not sure what your view is about this, but like, this is incredible that you and me, I'm in Moldova in Eastern Europe and you're in
Arizona,
west coast of Arizona. So it's fantastic. Like you said, like an apple, a knife to cut an apple, the knife can be used positively or it can be used harmfully. What are we going to do with AI?
I remember my conversation with Dr. David Jacobs, Professor David Jacobs, and we were talking about the terraforming of planet Earth that is happening right now. And I am willing to bet that the terraforming is happening for something else. We are carbon-based life forms. We have silicon-based life forms. What if, in fact, what's really happening here is that they are setting the stage so that a few survive, and AI is basically their servants because they don't need the useful eaters anymore. I don't know, but every day that passes and I see the progression and the evolution of AI, I think that this is what is happening. That's why I tell people, stay analog in a digital world.
Is it Matt Landman that you've spoken to several times?
Yes.
About staying analog. His advice, I'm a big fan of your show, as you know, so I really recommend anybody who's interested in staying analog to listen to those incredibly insightful interviews you've had with Matt. I learned a lot from him. Yeah, you're quite right. It's going to be a surreal situation to be in. It's Terminator style, like, because we're living in this soup of EMF. I often wonder, like, how many times am I walking through a very intense Wi-Fi area? What is it doing to my human genome? Is it responsible for some of the illnesses that people are having? How has it been manipulated? This is what I mean. These things, to a lot of people who are not well versed in some of these technologies, what we're saying might sound conspiratorial, but the evidence is there. Like, even COVID-19, I'm not sure if we can speak about it during this part, but do you know what? I'm going to leave it till a second because I don't want you to.
Yeah, keep it as a cliffhanger because we have to break anyway.
Sure, yeah, okay.
And I don't think that YouTube now censors that word, so we're safe, I guess. But tell people, how can they learn more about your work, Ryan?
My website is covenark.com. It's named after the Ark of the Covenant because I have a covenant with my clients. I work with businesses and human beings who wish to improve their physical and mental and spiritual health. And I really try to be analog, like we were speaking about. I really try to give my attention and time and knowledge to people in the best way that is personal for them. So people are more than welcome to visit my site and inquire with me how I can help them.
And in part 2, we're going to talk about the moon. You mentioned you wanted to talk about the moon, right?
Yeah,
the
my
moon,
big love.
More of AI, the Ark of the Covenant, and a big orb. Was it a big orb that you saw?
Yeah, so I didn't put this in the note to you, but I would thank you for reminding me. I have a video I can send you. I can always back up everything that I say. The big stages in my life have always come to me in a flash of light, and that light has appeared in different ways. I did see an orb in Stockholm, and we spoke about that last time, but after my grandmother's death in England, I saw a light in the sky, a UFO, and I have it on video, and I showed it to the police in England, and that was an amazing experience because there were fighter jets, British jets, that were being scrambled in the direction of it. And I can tell you that story afterwards in part 2 if you'd like to hear it.
Sure, absolutely. And by the way, speaking of lights in the sky, a lot of people are mentioning what's happening in Poland and in Denmark. Allegedly, the Russians penetrated the airspace of Poland and then now Denmark, and they were asking, are you gonna just talk about the Article 4 to immediately declare war? And Denmark said, no, wait a second. We don't know who they are. These are the same drones that were here in New Jersey earlier this year. So I want to know if you've heard around the world what's happening in the skies around the world, because I'm getting so many videos and they're incredible. Are they trying to prevent the war? And then we'll talk about Professor Avi Loeb that I interviewed a few weeks ago. A lot of people are writing to me saying, Mel, come on now. You believe what he said. I'll tell you what I think during part 2. But we have one more hour to come with Ryan Wardman. This is Mel, and you are listening to Veritas. Don't go anywhere. Here's a track from Truth Frequency. You won't hear anywhere else. If you like what you hear, you can get the full track at veritas7.com on the page for today's guest.
Soon قديسة دويتي دم إسلامي تسير ويغني
Thank you for listening to the first part of this important Veritas episode. To hear the rest and access all of our exclusive content, head over to the Veritas Plus member section or click the subscribe button at veritas7.com. While you're there, don't forget to visit the Veritas store, featuring a range of great products, including Focus Life Force Energy. Experience the benefits with a 15-day free trial of FLFE, no credit card required. Want to get in touch? Be a guest on the program, suggest someone, or share feedback? Just click the contact button at veritas7.com. Thank you for listening to Veritas, because you don't want to believe, you want to know.